going to tell you, I'm going to start off with a funny story. There's no extra charge for this, and it almost applies to the sermon. There was a ministerial student who was very convicted to do everything by the Bible. And he met this young lady, and he was seeing her, and he really wanted to kiss her, but he couldn't find a scripture that would allow him to kiss her. And so this went on for a while, and one night, she just reached out and grabbed him and gave him a good old kiss. He said, "Scripture, Scripture." She says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you."
That'll work.
That'll work. That's maybe not what Jesus had in mind, but we'll try to find that out as we look at our message. In the movie Pay It Forward, a boy played by Haley Joel Osment has a social studies assignment to find a way to change the world. He comes up with this idea: do something good for someone that they can't do for themselves, then that person pays it forward. They do something good for someone else. Well, as the concept catches on, we see people engaging in acts of kindness to others, only to say, "Don't pay me back. I'm looking for nothing in return. Pay it forward." Find 3 other people and do something for them. Essentially, the heart of Pay It Forward is the golden rule. It's something Jesus thought of 2,000 years ago. And if taken seriously, it can still change the world today. Jesus doesn't suggest we limit our actions to just 3 people, but to adopt it as a way of treating everyone we meet. Of course, the statement I'm talking about is in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. "So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets." Larry Chenard said of this text, the main body of Jesus' sermon, chapter 5, verse 17 through chapter 7, verse 11, closes with what has traditionally been called the golden rule. Jesus summarizes the essence of God's will as expressed in the law and the prophets by giving his hearers a general principle designed to govern human relationships in all circumstances. David Roper said this verse has been called the high point of the Sermon on the Mount. Certainly, it climaxes the discussion on how to get along with others. A brother and sister were in the attic looking through the letters their parents had written to each other many years ago. The boy asked, "Are you sure these belong to Mom and Dad?" The sister assured him that they did. He then told her, "That's not the names they call each other now." Apparently, early on, perhaps in courting days, they called each other sweet names, and they had gotten away from that. Sometimes we forget to treat others as we want to be treated. The minister had a special filing drawer for his bills. It was labeled "Do unto others," but it was D-U-E, to others. Well, what do we owe to others? We should treat others as we want to be treated. You want to be forgiven? Forgive. You need affirmation? Affirm. You feel hurt, wounded, broken, and could stand a gentle touch? Be gentle with others. You appreciate tact? Be tactful. You enjoy a nice compliment? Compliment others. Someone said there is a magnet in your heart that will attract true friends. That magnet is unselfishness, thinking of others first. When you live for others, they will live for you. Now, Jesus did not say to do these things if only they do something for you first. He commanded us to love people, even when they don't meet any of our high and mighty criteria. There was a man once sitting by a tree near a creek reading his Bible. Something caught his eye, and he looked to see a scorpion caught between 2 roots of a tree. The man reached over to help the scorpion loose, but each time he tried to grab it, the scorpion tried to sting him. The man who was standing nearby watching this said, "Don't you know it is the scorpion's nature to sting? Why don't you just forget it and let it die there?" The man smiled and looked up and replied, "Should it be necessary that I change my nature to accommodate someone else's nature? The scorpion may sting, but I help. That is my nature." When God's love fills your heart, you cannot help but share it with all things. As a side note, if the scorpion was in the house, kill it. But if it's out there, that's okay. Same with snakes, spiders. If they're where they belong, don't bother them. But the principle is, okay, should I change my nature because some other person is doing bad things? No. I should be doing the right thing. Well, you know, in many other religions, what we call the Golden Rule is stated negatively. Prior to Jesus, many had worded this principle in the negative. Do not do unto others what you would not want them to do to you. Among those who expressed this were Socrates, Aristotle, Confucius, and Buddha. Most notable is a story of an event that took place in 20 BC. Now that is around 50 years prior to Jesus giving the Sermon on the Mount. And the tale was told of a Gentile who approached Rabbi Hillel and his rival teacher of wisdom. The Gentile promised each that he would convert to Judaism if one of them could teach him the entire law while standing on one foot. So Rabbi Hillel said this, "Do not do to your fellow what you hate to have done to you. This is the whole law. The rest is explanation." But again, notice, it's negative. Don't do what you don't want done to you. Jesus said, do to others what you want them to do to you. Margaret E. Sangster captures the difference between the positive and negative treatments of the Golden Rule in her poem called "The Sin of Omission." It isn't the thing you do, dear, it's the thing you leave undone that gives you a bit of heartache at the setting of the sun. The tender word forgotten, the letter you did not write, the flowers you did not send, dear, are your haunting ghost at night. The stone you might have lifted out of a brother's way, the bit of heart, some counsel you were hurried too much to say, the loving touch of the hand, dear, the gentle winning tone, which you had no time nor thought for, with troubles enough of your own. There is a great difference in the negative and positive approaches of how we treat others. The negative statement is largely a matter of self-protection, while the positive is a matter of self-forgetfulness. It is possible to fulfill the negative by doing nothing, while one can only fulfill the positive by doing good things. A person does not even have to be religious to embrace the negative philosophy. That is a naturalistic way of looking at life. However, the second, do unto others, is the basis of pure religion. Remember the parable of the sheep and the goats in Matthew chapter 25? The goats were on the bad side. They were the ones who didn't do things for Jesus. They practiced the negative form of the Golden Rule. They didn't do things to harm people, but they didn't do anything to help people. The Golden Rule, Jesus says, is the law and the prophets. This text, this instruction, puts love your neighbor as yourself into practice. Ryle said, it settles 100 difficult points. It prevents the necessity of laying down endless little rules for our conduct in specific cases. Well, most of us have shopped at J.C. Penney at some time or other. J.C. Penney, got his start in the dry goods business by going to work for some fellas that owned a couple of stores called the Golden Rule Store. It wasn't too long till Penny bought them out, and for a while these stores were known as the Golden Rule stores. It is said that Mr. Penny did not like to use the word employee. He called those that worked for him associates, and he treated them just as well as he would like to be treated too. He was able to take a general store in 1902 and build it into a multi-billion-dollar business. And it seems that many times he followed the Golden Rule. He tried to always treat people like he wanted to be treated. Treated them with love, respect, kindness, understanding, and encouragement. That's the way we need to treat people. We need to treat people in the way that we want to be treated. The Golden Rule is not do unto others before they do unto you. That's misunderstanding it as well. But think how you would like to be treated in any situation, and then treat people in that way. There's an old saying that goes, a pat on the back is only a few vertebrae away from a kick in the pants, but the results are much better.